What is a business model? Hi there. This module, Business and Financial Models, is a big one. There's a lot here to understand and digest. So I hope you brought your seatbelt. We're going to take some time and go through a number of interesting but complicated issues. You may have to look at this a couple of times. You may have some questions you want to ask, but we'll try to take you through this slowly and carefully. So let's start off with the concept business model. It's a term that an entrepreneur might hear and be familiar with, but in my 45 years of experience as an entrepreneur and an investor, I often find business models can be defined as simply as a one-liner about the business that you do or a 200-page business plan. This begins the slippery slide into a complicated set of terms that are often confusing. Take a breath and know that we're going to tackle all of them in this module. Let's start at the simplest level. What do you, as a startup entrepreneur, need to know about your business model? If you have ever shared your idea with another investor or peer entrepreneurs, there's no doubt that one of the questions they'll ask you is, so what's your business model? From our standpoint at Venture Basecamp, the business model is part of an integrated set of questions about your startup. What is your business? They include things like, what problem are you solving? What's your product and how does it solve the problem? What customers are you targeting? Which segment of the market are you running for, going for? Who are your competitors? What differentiates you from them? What's your unique value proposition? And most importantly, how do you plan to make money while offering this unique value to your customers at an appropriate cost? There are a lot more questions that we go into detail about in other modules. In today's venture world, when someone asks you for your business model, they're likely asking you to tell them the story about how you'll turn your idea into a business, one that makes more money than it spends. The last question is primarily the question around business model, which is, how do you make money? What is your financial model? The prior questions are a framework for how you get to your financial model. Before we continue this discussion about business model, I want to remind you that a business model is not a business plan, particularly in today's focus on building what we call lean startups. As I discussed earlier, a business plan lays out in detail how you'll transform your idea into a sustainable business, outlining the answers to all those questions above and more. A business plan can be a 100 or 200-page document with several attachments and addendums. It addresses all the different questions we discussed before, plus the business model carried forward into a 2 to 5 year sales forecast or projection about revenue, your revenue model, your pricing, your sales, marketing, customer acquisition costs, and often includes that 5-year profit and loss statement or a balance sheet or a cash flow statement, and a cap table. We'll get into all of these. We talk about all of these things elsewhere in the Venture Basecamp modules and program. Sounds like a lot of work, and it is. As we've done in other videos, let's use the mountain climbing analogy of Venture Basecamp. Let's assume that you want to climb to a mountain peak. You have a rough idea of how you want to get there. So now you can either do one of two things. You can either start by writing a 200-page plan on climbing that mountain in detail, only to realize when you get to page 174 that you have an impossible path to cross at 16,000 feet. With the new shortened form of business canvas that you'll hear a lot about, you can lay out the whole ascent in a simple map showing all the key elements, hindrances, challenges, and key points, such as summits and plateaus, fairly quickly. So which one do we do? Well, there's different ideas about different ones. We can take approaches that we think are appropriate based on your advisors, your market, your investors, etc. This exercise will help you quickly identify all of the obstacles and risks that you'll have to encounter in your expedition. With a lean business model, you can plan your startup journey to help you mitigate or face those risks, or take a better path to the summit. As an early stage startup, your focus should be on validating your idea and testing your assumptions. This is the first chance, if required, for you to pivot. Let's take a look at Instagram. Instagram started, as you may know, as a location-based app called Bourbon that allowed users to check into a place like a restaurant, post pictures, and earn points. The app makers soon realized that users didn't really care that much about checking in the way the product was originally designed, but were far more engaged with the photo sharing aspect of their app, and pivoted Bourbon to create what is now Instagram. The aim of creating a lean business model is to enable you to validate your model, fail fast, and learn fast. Now, don't get me wrong. We all agree that a detailed business plan is a good mechanism to carefully plan out a business and has its place. But as an early stage startup that requires speed and agility to validate, test, and iterate before spending a lot of time on a business plan or actual process of building your business, it makes good sense to think about this new concept, which is a lean business model. A word of caution. Given the immense success of startups coming from Silicon Valley, entrepreneurs in emerging economies like India or China or Africa or Latin America try to adopt the Silicon Valley business models and even its businesses directly in their local markets. This may work, but you need to understand that you need not to just adopt it, but you need to adapt it. This is what we refer to as transplanting or copying with a twist in our module on developing great ideas. If you find an exciting business model that you feel might work really well in your country, you must adjust it to the local conditions and culture and other elements. While the problems might be similar, the customers in your country might need a different solution based on their local context. I'm emphasizing this because it's one of the biggest mistakes that we see in entrepreneurial startups in emerging markets. There are various tools to create a business model for a startup like yours. One of them is called a business model canvas.